Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her 9th trip to the battleground state of Wisconsin. And you heard her kind of summarize what has been her closing argument in the closing day. She took some questions on things from Middle East to campaign to what the strategy is. But let me bring in Simone once again, because the points she made at the top were talking about Donald Trump, plotting revenge against his enemies list. RFK Jr., him taking over health care policy if there is another Trump administration, who she called the last person who should be doing that. The violent rhetoric against Liz Cheney. There's been some debate about whether her best path in the closing days of this campaign is to allow Donald Trump to set the agenda, to constantly have the conversation be in response to him. So I wonder what you make of what you just heard.
Well, look, one, I will say, for all the people out there that say Kamala Harris doesn't like to talk to the reporters and do interviews and gaggle, she sure has been gaggling a lot lately, and that's what she used to do when I worked for her, so I'm not surprised to see her regularly going to the cameras to make her point. Look, Kamala Harris is running against Donald Trump. That is her opponent in this race. She is not running against a Mitt Romney type. She's not running against somebody that, is just differing on tax policy. Like, she is running against someone that makes comments like calling Liz, saying, let's put her, talking about Liz Cheney with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her. Okay, let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face. You know, they're all war hawks when they're sitting in Washington in a nice building. That's who she's running against. And I think that a long time ago, somewhere along the way, the media apparatus writ large, and I think the political folks, everyone from political reporters to strategists and whatnot, from both Democrats and Republicans, made a calculation that, well, maybe because voters know who Donald Trump is, what he says doesn't matter as much. And I think what the Harris campaign is seeing is that Donald Trump's words do matter. They do make a difference to voters across the board. And so her amplifying what Donald Trump has said is important because people may not have heard him. And I believe that, yeah, voters do think they have a good sense of who Donald Trump is, but I don't believe that they've always heard what he said.
When she talks about making these decisions by her gut more than necessarily research or polls that she has seen, part of that gut obviously is a political gut. How much of it, knowing her, is a personal gut? How much of it is, I am not going to let him say this about Liz Cheney and not respond to it?
I think it's a lot of that. I mean, it's her gut. It's what she does believe in, asking her advisor, saying, this is what I want to do. She's going to hear people out. But at the end of the day, she's the one that makes the decision on what to do. I also think it's like how she looks. Like, if you're going to stand there, Liz Cheney's taking a risk on you, because that's what she's doing. Liz Cheney took a risk in coming out there and endorsing Vice President Harris. Liz Cheney's what I like to call a real Republican. Okay, she would like to have a future in a real Republican Party apparatus. But coming out there and endorsing Vice President Harris and campaigning with her and for her and making this case about democracy wasn't like she's taking her life is in danger, frankly. Liz Cheney has upped security because people in this country are crazy. Like, let's just be very clear about that. So you can't have Liz Cheney coming out here taking a risk for you and for democracy, and you're not willing to come out here and defend Liz Cheney. I think Vice President Harris feels that way, but I also think she does fundamentally believe that if people knew what Donald Trump was saying, they might decide to make different decisions.
And the RFK issue.
That's like RFK in charge of health care? Oh. Who doesn't believe in vaccines, I don't want him making the decisions about the mifepristone and the Comstock Act and who gets health care when, where, why, and how, using the legislative levers within the Department of Health and Human Services to harm potentially Americans.
You question his judgment. It's a guy who says he sawed off the head of a carcass of a whale. He left roadkill baby bear and
the worms in the brain. I'm concerned.
It's a judgment thing, and you wonder on whether he has the right judgment to make big decisions
and on healthcare
and the vaccine stuff alone. Kamala Harris obviously wants voters to hear those Donald Trump words. I mean, and they're going to hear them if they're tuning into the news, most news. They're going to hear them if they're reading the newspaper. They're going to see it if they go to streaming news sources for the most part. But if they're
Late night TV.
late night TV, if you're just scrolling through your feed, say you're not turning on television, and all you have is the algorithm, the TikTok algorithm, or the Instagram algorithm, are you going to see it there?
Well, if the vice president herself goes out and gives remarks and then her team clips it and then works with their, campaign apparatus, maybe some of the influencers that have endorsed her to ask them to amplify it, they could see it. So there's a multi-pronged strategy here, right? It's not just, you just can't go out there, do it and say it and hope that everybody else does the work of getting it picked up. You have to take the words that your candidate is saying that you want people to see, sometimes put money behind it, but sometimes use your extensive network to get the organic traffic, if you will, that it could grab. And so that is also part of the strategy here. But people are still watching their local news. Everybody, midday, they're going to turn on the television and check the weather. And they're going to see a clip of Vice President Harris.
And this also drives women voters in particular. So if their theory of the case is, if all those women out there decide to vote, we win because more women vote than men, period. That's the math.
Yeah, I would say they cannot discount the impact that men, though, could also have on this election, right?
Point.
Yeah, so they can't just put all their eggs in the women basket. And I think that their calculation maybe is that men care about women in their lives and have a connection to this issue too, so they care. Yeah,
but also the incredibly impactful, devastated testimonies of the husband in Texas and Georgia, who have lost their partners or whose wives have suffered lost their babies.
Yeah, it is. It just really struck me how, this is, I'm 34 years old, right? I have not birthed children, but I'm a mother. I'm a stepmother. And I am concerned about what the country could potentially look like for young women like myself. Will I be able to get the care that I want and or need if Donald Trump is president?